Because Premiere references media rather than importing it and making it part of the project, I like to have all of my files labeled and organized as much as possible before I import them into Premiere. If I were to move or relabel files after importing them into Premiere, it would break the link between the file and the Premiere project. That media would then become offline. Offline media only shows up in Premiere as this red screen. I use a project folder system for organization. The idea is to simply have all of the files associated with this editing project inside of one folder. This makes the project self-contained and makes moving or copying the project extremely easy. Here's a sample project folder. Inside the main folder, I have subfolders for each file type I'm going to be using in the edit. The most basic project that I'll work on will use at least 2 folders. One folder for my Premiere Pro project files, which are the files that I'm going to save out of Premiere that are going to contain all of the work that I'm doing on my edit. The reason I give my Premiere Pro project file its own folder is that as I'm working in Premiere, it's going to generate files in the background. These include things like the autosave and preview files whenever I render. By creating a folder just for the project file, all of these other files will get automatically sorted into this folder. I usually label this folder Premiere Files, or PR files for short. The next folder is where I'm going to store and organize all of the video footage I'm going to be using in this project. This is how I like the video files organized in this folder. Each card that gets copied from a camera gets its own folder, labeled Card 01. If it's a multi-camera shoot, I'll also include the camera labels in the card name. For example, Camera A, Card 01. Other useful information you might want to include in this folder name could be the make and model of the camera or the date of the production. Subsequent cards should be labeled in chronological order. I leave the raw video files labeled as they came out of the camera. These are usually labeled numerically and in chronological order. If I'm going to do any relabeling of files, I'm going to do it once I bring the file into Premiere, where I can do it non-destructively. If I'm using any stock footage for this project that I've purchased and downloaded, I'll typically store that in its own folder. Other subfolder types that might be stored inside the project folder are things like After Effects files, Adobe Illustrator files, Photoshop files, music, or documents that go with the project. This is not a complete list of all the subfolder types I use for a project folder, but they are the most common. The basic rule for me is each file type gets its own folder. An exception to this might be if I have a group of different files that all fit under one category. For example, JPEGs, bitmaps, and TIFFs could all be filed under a folder called Images. An easy way to remove the tediousness of having to recreate this folder structure for each project that you're doing is to create a template project folder that includes the most commonly used subfolders. Then, every time you start a new project, simply duplicate and rename the template project folder. If you're going to be using files from an archive or a library you've created, such as a stock music library, make sure you copy the files from the library to the project folder. That way, if the project folder is ever moved or copied, all of the dependent files are moved with it.